This is the Final Lap Weekly for 2024. Woo! We're back.
We have done it. I cannot believe we've made it to another season, Kerry. How cool is that?
So cool. This is the show where a couple of guys talk about all things NASCAR. My name's Kerry Murphy, longtime host of All Things the Final Lap. In fact, this is my 20th year doing the Final Lap.
Congratulations, man. What a milestone.
Isn't that crazy? That's
I
absolutely
cannot believe
crazy.
it. I
That
mean,
other, go
there are
ahead.
people that haven't even been in this industry for 20 years.
Thanks.
I mean, seriously, think about it. The list of people who have made it that long in anything in this industry is really, really short. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I still can't believe it. That other voice there is Toby Christie, of course, founder and editor-in-chief at TobyChristieCom. And he's got our list of Patreon paying members.
All right, Kerry, you ready for this? We've got 18 names on this list as we head into the 2024 NASCAR season.
Nice.
I cannot believe we've got racing this weekend. It feels unreal. This off season has been so short. There's been
It's
so much
so
going
cool.
on. It's
I
just
know.
crazy.
It seems like a long time, but it also seems like a short time. It's weird.
It is a weird thing where you don't really know how to feel about it as it's going on.
Yeah.
But wait, we're here. We've made it somehow, some way through. I had a couple sicknesses, by the way. One
So do
after
we.
Snowball Derby, one this past week. So hopefully I'm good to go the rest of the year now. I think I've used up all my sicknesses.
Yeah, it's probably we probably wouldn't have done some shows anyway because we've had these bouts of weird stuff going on too. So yeah, healthy now.
Yes, healthy, ready to roll for the 2024 season. Ready to see my buddy Davey at Daytona in a few weeks.
There you go.
But let's check it out here. We've got the huge list of folks. We've got Devin over there at the Only It Matters Giant level tier, one of our sponsors of the show. And of course, we're not going through the whole 18 at the top. We go through our sponsors. It's been a while.
I was
So that's
wondering.
how we go through things.
Yep.
And then, of course, we've got Alex Taylor over there at the Ultimate Final Lapper tier. Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Devin, our two sponsors heading into the 2024 season. If you'd like to have your name mentioned at the top of the list, go to patreon.com/final lap and sign up for that Only At Mattress Giant level tier or higher, and you'll be part of the opening parts of the show.
Of course, if you're listening as a podcast, we truly appreciate that. Of course, give us a good rating wherever you are listening. But we're also doing this on YouTube over at Toby Christie's YouTube channel, which is
It is youtube.com/TobyChristieCom, I believe is how you can get there. But the TobyChristieCom is the name of it.
We decided to go with that route. We're probably going to maybe throw some stuff over at youtube.com/the final lap. But for right now, that's where you go to find our ugly mugs if you so desire.
If you do so choose to do so, which why people do it, I don't know, but they do, and we appreciate you.
It's all about the video. Hey, before we get into the big clash thing going down in downtown Los Angeles this weekend at the Coliseum, let's go through a few headlines since we were gone. First up, Jimmie Johnson racing and a Hall of Famer, but he's still doing 9 events and he's showing off cars that look like petty cars. And
yeah, he's got a lot going on. It's been a busy offseason for the guy. I mean, we enshrined him in the Hall of Fame, which was really cool. I thought that was a really awesome ceremony with he and Chad Canals and Donnie Allison.
Their speeches were great.
They were, and we got to hear some cool nuggets we'd never heard before. Chad Canals talking about how he actually worked for DEI at one point between the Hendrick and Return to Hendrick situation, which I never knew about.
Wow.
How he got the job at Hendrick to begin with, sleeping in his car overnight and slushing fountain drink in his mouth before he went in to get ready for it was interesting.
I think it's interesting that to this day, Jimmie Johnson still has no idea why they chose him.
That is, I mean, that's the thing I took away from it too. And we've always wondered that, like Jeff Gordon picked him randomly, told Rick Hendrick, I think this is the guy. I think there may have been some GM influence behind that because of the off-road trucking program and the fact he stuck with them in the Xfinity Series with the Herzog team.
But it's not like he had this amazing record and was like,
no,
oh yeah, totally, that's
the thing. Yeah, that was the thing. It was a big question mark when they made the decision. It was like, okay, well, this better work out right, or this is gonna look really stupid. And turns out the guy ended up preventing Jeff from probably becoming a 7-time champion. So
yeah, what a gut instinct by everybody involved.
Yeah, and I think it all worked out pretty well. Hendrick Motorsports, as we sit here, is now a 14-time NASCAR Cup Series winning organization, 7 of which came from Jimmie Johnson. So I think they're pretty happy with the move to put Jimmie in that 48 car back then.
Good to see both him and Chad inducted at the same time, too. That was pretty cool.
So for those keeping up with 2024, Johnson returns, like you said, for 9 races in the 84 car for Legacy Motor Club, the team that he co-owns. They swapped to Toyota this year from Chevrolet.
Yep.
So that'll be new. He has to qualify for the Daytona 500, much like last year. He's got pressure on his shoulders heading into that race. We've already got 41 entries going into it. We're expecting a few more entries to come. So he's going to have to work his way in. It's not going to be an automatic thing. So
Yep.
there's a couple different
And
paths to
I
get in there
thought
too.
I thought of the Kevin Harvick quote where he says, "No, I'm never going to race Cup again because you have to run every week in order to be competitive." Jimmie Johnson's going to put that to the test this year with his 9 events.
For sure, and he's running some stuff that's kind of in his wheelhouse. So he's been running a lot of road course stuff the last few years. He will have some road racing in here, but he's been running more mile and a halves and stuff like that. So I'm kind of interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, yeah. The other headline, recent last few days, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has been named the Grand Marshal for NASCAR's biggest race, the Daytona 500. He'll say the most famous words in motorsports: drivers, start your engines, and do other, Grand Marshal-y kind of stuff.
I'm excited about that because first off, he's a huge name. Everybody
Huge,
knows The Rock at this point.
huge this
We've
way
been living
too.
under a rock. Yeah, it's huge every which way you slice it up. But it just kind of sparks the whole conversation about NASCAR becoming a mainstream sport again because
Yep.
we had gotten so high and then we fell so low. But we've got Netflix docuseries coming out, which I don't know if you've binged it yet. Really great stuff.
Not yet. Not yet.
Man, give it a shot. It's pretty cool. I know we've already kind of lived it as media members in this sport and
Right.
fans of the sport, but it's a really well done docuseries.
The trailer is amazing. I mean, I was like, whoever cut that is on their game.
No, they did an amazing job. And when you go into it, the access they have behind the scenes with the drivers, the thing I was most worried about with that docuseries, to kind of spawn off of this topic for a second, I was expecting it to be so kind of aw shucks and just scripted feeling and just fake, right? Because that's the thing. We always get these canned things for these drivers because they're trying not to offend a sponsor and all these things. It just feels stuffy and not real.
There were bad words in the trailer.
Yeah, there were bad words in the trailer. There were bad words peppered throughout the entire thing.
Right.
And these guys were so real. They didn't, it wasn't one of those things where you're like, oh, they just did that because the camera was there. No, they were just doing their normal thing. Denny Hamlin's burning pancakes in the morning. You got William Byron eating a bowl of Fruit Loops and making some Legos.
Building a Titanic.
Yes, building a Titanic. He did the NASCAR Lego. He had Legos all over that house. That guy is really invested in Legos all of a sudden. So really, really cool stuff. I was really blown away by the behind the scenes footage of the drivers at home, because the only thing we ever see from those kind of things are always those kind of pre-planned canned things from a sponsor that never come off looking very authentic. So I was very, very happy to see that.
Any other major headlines since we were last on?
I think as far as things go, I'm trying to think of last time we did a show.
Like mid-December, but I think we still covered everything.
Yeah, I think we got pretty close to everything. I know Josh Williams will be starting a part-time Cup schedule in addition to his full-time Xfinity Series schedule with colleague.
I said big stories.
Yeah, well, hey, it's a Cup driver. He's running Cup now.
I knew you were going to go that route. I knew it.
He's going to run the Busch Light Clash this weekend in your home area there.
Yeah.
Under the deluge of weather. And yeah, so he'll be running
Atmospheric River.
Yes, that's what you were telling me it was called, right?
Yeah, right.
You guys are your ponding of your streets and all sorts of stuff. I don't know what kind of lingo you guys have over there.
My wife has a master's in atmospheric science. She said she's never heard that term ever, ever, ever.
Interesting. Yeah, I had never heard a lot of the terms. I was looking up some forecast stuff for you guys, and I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I need like a different thesaurus to figure it all out. But
yeah, we're special.
Yeah, that's okay. And you were saying, work's canceled when it just rains over there? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, my wife took the day off. It's raining.
Amazing.
But, she's the boss, so she can do that.
The morning radio DJ is like, all right, LA, wake up. It's really, really rainy outside, which means it's not 100% perfect, which means no work today.
I think most of the radio DJs actually still, because of COVID, still broadcast out of their houses.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. So they probably don't even have to leave either. They're like,
nope.
You're going to be like us today, guys. Stay at home. It's rainy.
Let's talk more Busch Light Clash from Los Angeles inside the Memorial Coliseum. Yeah, it's where the football field is normally. It's a 1/4 mile paved oval temporary
flat thing.
Yep, no banking. So let's get into it. Saturday is the practice/qualifying. It's basically the same thing where 3 groups each get 3 sessions with the fastest lap times in the final session determining the starting lineup for the heat races. You got that part? You've got to listen every step of the way here because everything builds up.
Yes, and it is slightly different from last year. A lot of it's very close to the same, but it is slightly different.
Yep. Then we got the 4 heat races based on those final practice sessions, which will each be 25 laps. Looks like it'll be about 15 minutes each. Only green flag laps will count, and there is no overtime.
Right. And the top 5 finishers from each heat race will advance to the main event. Everyone else from those heat races will be relegated to the last chance qualifiers.
Yes. Yes. And then you got like heat race 1, for instance, is going to have the fastest car, then 5, 9, 13, 17. Race 2, second fastest car, 6, 10, 14, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mentioned the 5 finishers moving on. Then you got the last chance qualifier, which is on the next day to determine the last 5 spots in the Clash, and that's 75 laps. That's a long one. That's got to be what?
That is
30 minutes.
Yes, which of course last year, if you remember correctly, we had 2 LCQs. They've combined that into one big LCQ. Only
Right.
the top 2 advanced. For last year, I think it was like the top 2 or 3 from each one advanced. So a much more exclusive field this time around. We're going from 27 cars just down to 23 this time around.
Yeah.
Because after the LCQ, there will be one driver who gets in a different way.
Right. But isn't there like 31 on the entry list or something like that? So 33?
It's 36. So all
36
36
now.
charter teams are
Okay.
there.
Yep.
And only 23 will make it to the main event.
Wow. 23 doing battle in the Clash on a quarter-mile flat oval. Let's talk a little bit about weather. I'm looking at my iPhone right now. Obviously, it changes, but it looks like Saturday, 35% and 54 degrees. Sunday, 70% and 54 degrees. So
That doesn't look good. Yeah, I heard the chances for weather was more intense as we got through the weekend. So closer to Sunday,
right.
it would go up. So not surprising, but we'll see. Obviously, rain, wet, I guess they call them wet weather tires.
Yep.
Is a possibility. We saw last year they worked okay at Wilkesboro, depending on how much the ponding is on your racetrack over there, Kerry Murphy.
Right.
We'll have to see if they can use them. But if they can use them, we've seen that they do work, and we can, run laps and run competitive laps with them. So we'll see how things go.
And this is literally the shortest track on the schedule. I mean, a quarter mile is tiny.
It's tiny. It was a thing that before the next gen car didn't seem like a possibility with a NASCAR Cup Series car. So
they're huge.
The fact we've got these massive braking systems on them, really good, independent suspensions that can now turn on a dime, makes it possible. And it's an interesting thing. I want to see this happen in more Coliseums across America.
Are there more Coliseums?
Yeah, all sorts of stadiums and Coliseums.
So we've got a windshield wiper, rain tires, presumably mud flaps, as well as the flashing red light. Do they need that for such a short track?
Oh yeah, they'd have to have the whole weather package.
The whole package. All right.
Yep.
Just making sure. What else we got here? Let's talk times and where to watch and all that kind of stuff. So the practice and qualifying sessions are going down Saturday at 6 p.m. on FS1. Heat races start at 8:30 p.m. Saturday on FS1, each about 15 minutes. Last chance qualifying race is Sunday, 6:30 p.m. on Fox. And finally, the Clash is 8 p.m. Sunday on Fox. And all those times I just gave you are Eastern, so adjust wherever you are living. If you're in Australia, I can't help you.
And let's not forget, the NASCAR Mexico Series will also be running an event there on Saturday. And it will have Daniel Suarez in the field for that.
And there's some sort of exhibition with their new electric vehicle NASCAR.
Yeah, that David Reagan has worked on. I don't think of David Reagan as a guy that would be testing your EV. Do you?
Right. No, not at all. But electric car in the rain, is that possible?
Ooh, that's a great question. You would know better than me.
Wait, I would? How?
Aren't you an electric vehicle guy? You're over there in LA, right?
Yeah, there's no problem.
That's why you guys can't go to work when it's raining. I get it now. It makes sense.
You found us out now.
I got it.
No, they're just fine in the rain. You can charge them in the rain. You can drive in the rain. It's not really an issue. That's a made-up thing.
That is pretty funny, though.
Very.
All right, LA. Our charging cars don't work in the rain. No work today.
That's right. That's pretty funny. Hey, I noticed, speaking of electric vehicles, NASCAR, I got this in my email here. Where did it go? Here it is. Win a Ford F-150 Lightning XLT.
There you go.
This is from NASCAR. So check your email if you're part of like their fantasy group or whatever. If they've got your email, you probably got this one.
I do have to say, a lot of these electric vehicles, they're coming out looking pretty sporty. Like they're making some really good looks for these things.
Yeah, they don't look like the, like second generation Prius anymore.
No, they were like, it was like, oh God, what are these things? But no, they look really good now. They figured out how to kind of take the styling aspects and put like faux grills on things, or just emit the grill in a really unique way. And it's interesting to see how they're doing these.
Last weekend, I had a chance to go to a local car club, and they had 6 Tesla Cybertrucks, and
Oh,
they
wow.
in person are just a sight to see because they took the regular script of writing or making a car and just threw it out. I mean, it is so different, so foreign, so alien. It's pretty cool, actually.
That's incredible.
So, but on the flip side, you got the Ford F-150 Lightning, which still looks like a Ford F-150. So you don't have to compromise on looks if you don't want to.
That's true. It's all about preference, and it's cool to see so many different options out there these days. Do you want to go through this entry list to kind of refresh people on who's where
Please
for
do.
2024 as we're going into the Busch Light Clash this weekend?
Yeah, let's do it because I mean, we have nothing else to do, so let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So when we look at the top, the cars 1 through 10 here, we've got Ross Chastain back in the 1 car. No huge surprise there, but he does have Busch Beer as his sponsor, and they've got that cool iconic paint scheme that they revealed. Not that I'm calling it iconic yet; it's brand new. They're labeling it iconic because they're going to have several other paint schemes throughout the year with the Busch Beer brand. We've got Austin Cindric returns a Neutron-looking car, the Freightliner car this weekend, so that'll be pretty cool to see. And then we've got Bet MGM on the Austin Dillon number 3 car. Austin Dillon returns after a pretty rough season last year. He's hoping to turn things around this year. But BetMGM will enter their 4th year of partnership with RCR this season. And then we've got the Rookie of the Year candidate, Josh Berry. He takes over for Kevin Harvick, as we've talked about in the past, in the number 4 car with Rodney Childers. Sunny D, Kerry, on the hood of that car.
That's my favorite.
You do like Sunny D, right?
Oh, it's so good.
It's better than Tang, right?
It's like drinking
battery
vomit.
acid. Isn't it great?
It's like drinking vomit.
Wow. So now we know they're not going to sponsor us. So that's good.
Damn, were they on the
trend going? It started off so good too. The Sunny D guy was probably like, ooh,
not them.
We've got Kyle Larson back in the HendrickCars.com number 5. Brad Keselowski will pump out the Castrol Edge paint scheme to start things off this week. In the number 6, Corey LaJoie back in the 7, Kyle Busch in the 8. Chase Elliott in the 9. But here's a difference. This is a new one, Kerry. In the 10 car, we've got Noah Gragson making his return to the Cup Series, hoping to kind of rejuvenate what looked like a career that was spiraling out of control towards the end of last season with the whole suspension and then the firing from Legacy Motor Club and then the reinstatement, and now he's back on a team.
There you go. And never to be a champion, Denny Hamlin is next on the list.
Ooh, wow, that cuts deep, Kerry. Wow. Poor guy.
I think he knows.
But he does have 50 trophies on his mantle, so that's pretty good.
Right.
But yeah, no Cup Series championship, that's for sure.
But this guy already has one.
That is the funny thing, because this is a guy that how different does a year change the outlook of a guy, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like last year this time I was like, man, Ryan Blaney, can he ever, get this kind of thing done? He's just not a consistent enough guy to get there. Well, now he's a champion, so there you go.
Yep. Can't take it away either.
No, he earned it for sure. Then we've got Chase Briscoe back in the 14, right? But we've got a new guy there in the 15. You want to talk about that?
Sure. He's got a 3-letter word for his name.
Kaz Gralla, of course, in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing. He'll have a 25 race schedule this season, including the Busch Light Clash. Now, he will also add a 26th race at least in the 36 entry for Front Row Motorsports for the Daytona 500. But 25 races in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing. Then, like we mentioned earlier, Josh Williams will go in the 16 for Colleague Racing in this event. It will be kind of shared between a bunch of different drivers this year, Josh Williams, AJ Allmendinger, and others. So the roster is still being assembled there, and we'll find it out as we go along. But that's kind of where we're at there. Again, no real huge changes here in this portion of the entry list. Chris Buescher back in the 17, Martin Truex Jr. in the 19, Christopher Bell in the 20, Harrison Burton in the 21, 22 Logano, 23 Bubba Wallace, 24 William Byron. But then things change again as we get to the 31 car there, the second Colleague Racing entry. And that's Daniel Hemrick, Kerry.
Nice.
He's back full-time Cup racing. Of course, he ran one full-time Cup season a few years ago back in 2019, 2020? 2019, right?
Has it been that long? Wow.
I think so. Back with RCR there. So in the 8 car back then, now he's in the 31 car this time around for his second go around at full-time Cup. Of course, he's a former Xfinity Series champion, so we'll see how things go for him this year.
Yeah.
We've got Michael McDowell back in the 34, Todd Gilliland in the 38, Ryan Preece returns in the 41, and then we've got a new one again, number 42, John Hunter Nemechek
Nice.
Again, kind of like Daniel Hemrick. He had a one full-time season in the Cup Series back with Front Row Motorsports a few years back. I think it was 2020, actually. And now he's back here in 2024 in the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club.
Very cool. Eric Jones in the 43, Tyler Reddick in the 45, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 47, Alex Bowman 48. And then we got Justin Haley.
Yeah, that's a new one there because he moves over from College Racing to Rick Ware Racing in the 51, and they've got a pretty impactful sponsor this weekend. You see that?
I did.
Now, Walmart Health and Fitness will be in the 51 car. And as we go through here, we've got Ty Gibbs back in the 54, but then we do have some craziness happening here in the back half of this entry list because we've got Spire Motorsports, Trackhouse Racing, forming a partnership of sorts to put Zane Smith in a 71 car, which is a brand new chartered entry with Focused Health as the sponsor of that thing. Then we've got 77, Carson Hocevar, again with Spire Motorsports with Delaware Life on the car this weekend. And then Daniel Suarez rounds it out in the number 99 car for Trackhouse Racing.
That is quite the entry list for such a tiny track, such a small event, but it's going to be whittled down to 23 in the main. So there you go.
So who do you think, what notable name from this do you think doesn't make it to the main event?
Notable that doesn't make it.
Because this is a race where we've seen in these LCQs and stuff, things get kind of crazy. People get booted. There's a big name that could potentially miss this main event.
I don't know, because a lot of the big names also have short track experience.
That's a good point.
So that's tough.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
I'm going through the list and I'm like, I don't know. This could be a race of superstars.
Right. I feel like Ross Chastain's the guy who misses it somehow.
It is funny. I was kind of highlighting him, but
that's funny.
I was looking for somebody bigger to make it more shock-worthy.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say Stenhouse, but man, he's got a lot of experience on stuff like this.
He does. He's one of those guys that's a dirt track guy and has a lot of short track experience and he's run pretty well there with JTG Doherty Racing the last few years.
Doherty.
There it is.
Let's go Ryan Blaney.
Ryan Blaney to miss the main event. Oh my gosh. The NASCAR Cup Series defending champion heads to the LA Memorial Coliseum and is out. Now, we do have to put the caveat out there, Kerry, that probably will not be a realistic option for you.
He would get the last spot, I know.
He would get the last spot by way of owner points. So, but you're picking him to not finish in those top 22 starting spots, which I think would be interesting. Yes, that would be interesting. We'll see how that goes.
There you go.
What if he they're like, hey, you get that 23rd spot. He's like, nah, I'm good.
No. Yep.
Kerry said I'm out. So
I'm out. I don't deserve it.
I don't deserve it. Amazing.
So 20 years of the final lap on the radio. I started back in 2004. Is that right? Holy crap. Yeah.
Man.
2004 is when I first started the final lap radio side of things. I remember having coffee with my soon-to-be boss, Andy Denmark, for United Stations Radio Networks. It was in Sherman Oaks, and we went to a Starbucks, and I remember giving him a CD of a demo. I had started in the previous fall in 2003, and I had a demo. I had 8 stations, no audience. I mean, they were the tiniest stations on the planet. I said, here, Mr. Andy, here's my demo. Please, consider me for your big radio network. And he listened to it, got back to me, said, we don't have anything for you right now. This was, I guess the meeting was in like November, December of 2003. I'm going to put you on the back burner, and when we're ready, I'll call you. And I'm like, okay, well, that's it. I'm never going to hear from this guy again. He just, gave me the brush off. A couple months later, he gives me a call and says, all right, let's get this going for next year. Let's start it up. And I'm like, really? And so I signed the contract. It was a pretty small contract at the time. We didn't know how this was going to go. And I think we started with maybe 30 to 40 radio stations just to start. Now that sounds big, but it's actually kind of tiny. As NASCAR progressed in the 2000s, it exploded. And within, I'd say, a year and a half, 2 years, we went from 30 radio stations to 350.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was it blew up. It was crazy. I was riding like a tsunami, and it was, just amazing to be part of NASCAR, riding that wave. getting all those radio stations. And for those that don't know, it's a twice daily 90-second NASCAR news feature. So it's meant to go inside your favorite morning show. They say, "Hey, Kerry Murphy up next with your NASCAR news," and they play me.
I
And
will say, when I first started co-hosting this version of the Final Lap with you, when I go interview people and I tell them I'm with the Final Lap, PR people are like, "Oh yeah, I hear that every day on my station," and like drivers be, "Oh, with Kerry, cool, sweet." So
that's
it was
so
like,
weird.
yeah, you were like the man, So not to say you aren't
Right.
now.
No, but it has died off, as it ebbs and flows with the sport, unfortunately. And we lose radio stations, we pick up radio stations. I think we're on around 200 still. I haven't seen a recent list, but I think we're still on around that many. Still, doing it to this day. And it turned, into the Final Lap Weekly at some point. But I remember my first interview ever was over the phone, and that was Kenny Wallace. I remember
That was
being
gonna
in.
be my question, was
Yeah.
who was your first? Because I thought I was thinking it was Brian Vickers for whatever reason.
That was my first. Actually, he was my second in person. Jason
Okay.
Keller was my very first in
Yes,
person
I do remember we've talked about this in the past. I do remember that now.
in
Yes.
Las Vegas. Back when Las Vegas Media Center was a tent, and they had folding chairs, and it was pretty, low end compared to what they have now. And I show up, and I am just greener than green. I don't know anything about this world. I mean, I knew enough about racing, but being a media member and knowing what to do and where to do it, I had a cold pass. I didn't know what that meant, and I had PR
Those aren't even
people.
a thing anymore, by the way.
I know, I know. PR people saying, "Hey, can you come out to the hauler?" I'm like, "Am I allowed to do that?" And I have this cold pass. Does this work anywhere? I had no idea. Finally, they just said, "We'll just do it in the media center." We used a PRN recording booth, and I did the Jason Keller interview. Scared out of my mind. It's just Jason Keller looking
Yeah.
back, but interview came out great though. I think I recorded it on a mini disc laser recorder. That's how long ago this
Wow.
was.
Incredible.
Yeah,
At
and
least you weren't
then
cutting the and splicing the film, so that's good.
yeah, well, I had to dub it over. I had to copy it over after the interview. It was a whole process back then.
How big was this thing you were carrying around?
Oh, it was tiny. It was
Oh, okay.
smaller than an iPhone. But you had to put discs in it to record and all that kind of stuff, and a microphone.
Weird. I don't even know about that technology. I'm gonna look one of those up. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So then the second interview, same day, was Brian Vickers. Even more scared out of my mind because he was actually a somebody in my mind. He's the up and comer Busch Series driver, and just you're driving for Hendrick Motorsports, and I'm looking at all his logos on his fire suit and getting distracted. And it was, I had no idea how to do all this. But the funny thing is it clicked, I don't know, 5, 6 races later that, what, nobody cares what you are there to do. You
Yeah.
know what? You have your job, they have their jobs. Nobody's looking at you or caring about what you're doing as long as you're credentialed properly and you just do your thing. And it was after that, it was smooth sailing. I've done 1,000 interviews since then. I don't know. It's been a lot. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
say that my first race as media carry was actually in Vegas in 2010. And so it was the first race with that new media center that they have down there. So
yep.
I didn't know any different. I walk up, I'm like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
what is this? Like, they've got security letting people in, like in suits and
Right.
stuff. I'm like, okay. I get in, I sit down. First person I'm sitting across from my very first time in media center is Dick Berggren. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
okay, yeah, this is real. Like, what the heck? And then, like you said, the first interviews are always just like, oh crap. Like, I just don't want to say something stupid. I don't
Right.
want this person to think I'm an idiot. So it's funny to hear that you had the same
Oh
thoughts
yeah.
and that we all kind of feel the same way going into it. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah.
Over the years, though, what's your favorite interview? What's the or moment that you've had interviewing a driver?
I have two. Obviously, my in-person interview with Jeff Gordon, I only had one. It was so amazing. It took me years to get this interview. It was at Texas Motor Speedway. You were there, I think. It took years to set up because I kept getting, I don't want to say blown off by his PR person, but the schedules just didn't line up. They didn't work. Finally, the stars aligned. I got Jeff Gordon in the hauler, a full 10 minutes, and we had a blast. I mean, there were no nerves or anything. Sure, initially, of course, it's Jeff Gordon, but it just turned into a regular conversation. It was so awesome, so cool, and that's got to be the highlight. Couple other interviews. I mean, back in the day when Jimmie was first coming out, he would have a weekly telephone interview, and I would get on first thing every single week with him, and I would do like 3 questions, like a mini interview, and I would use that on the radio show before anybody even had a chance to talk to him. And so we had this rapport early on. I did get a chance to interview him later, but not in a formal setting. Just kind of, I think it was at the awards banquet in Vegas. I got a chance to talk with him for a few questions, but that comes to mind. But I got to say, our longest or most interviewed people have been my favorites. Justin Allgaier and Ryan Blaney are at the top of the list, being on the show the most. And there's a reason for that, because they are not formal interviews. There's just a couple of guys talking, chatting. They're always so down to earth, so cool. And those are the 2 guys that stand out the most for just being fun,
Yeah, they're always willing to make the time to do it whenever you put a response in. So
yeah, I don't
really
know
cool.
now with Ryan, being a fancy pants champion now. I haven't put in a request lately, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I feel like he's a guy that will remember that he's done all those things to this point. And I think he'll continue doing it. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yep.
On the flip side, what's maybe like your biggest regret to this point that you wish, man, I wish I would have done this?
Wow. I don't know if I have any regrets, because I think everything has just been so amazing. This show actually is kind of a regret. Not that I am doing it, the fact that I have yet to figure out how to make it popular. That has just weighed on me heavily. I made the radio show and it exploded, and I don't know if that's due to me or due to the sport or whatever, but the Final Lap Weekly, in all honesty, is not what I thought it would become. You and I still love doing it. It actually helps me in my other show, because we can talk about anything and everything at length without a script, and it definitely helps me on the radio show side of thing and other things in my life. So in that regard, that's a regret, that I just have not been able to crack that nut and make this thing explode. And I've yet to do it. I don't know how. I don't know what it is, but we're still doing it.
I feel like we were right on the cusp there too, because we had a little bit of a surge right before all these other podcasts started popping out with actual drivers hosting them and stuff like that. And I feel like we were right on the cusp, and I think that was the teetering point to make it happen. Then, at least, I think there's still a path where it happens down the line. I'm with you though. I wish that things were more popular. I'm very thankful for the people we do have that listen to this show. Very thankful for the Patreon members that subscribe to help us make the show as good as we can make it. But I'm with you. I do wish it was more popular. I do wish we had a little bit higher of a platform to kind of speak our thoughts to more people. But the ones that do listen, we do appreciate, and it's really, really cool that we do get to talk to those people.
Speaking of those Patreon paying people, we got to wrap up the show. We're running out of Zoom time here.
Oh my gosh.
Who are they? And let's quickly get it through.
Let's go through it. So our 2 sponsors of the show, we've got Alex Taylor and Devin over there. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. We've also got Lalo, Louisville Max, our longtime listener and longtime patron. We've got Robert Keene, Jimmy B, Mr. Jimmy James 1983, Quentin Whitaker. I expect to see my buddy there at Daytona in a couple weeks. So thank you, Quentin, for still being here. Look forward to seeing you. Simon Green from across the pond, Troy Clark from down under, one of our Australian listeners who could probably tell us whatever path there is to watch the Clash from down that way. We've got Peter Johansson, David Reed, Joe Bike, the original patron of the show. Thank you, Joe. Evan Taylor, Mike Hamilton, Nick Reed, Scott Clark, Justin Kapasinskis. He's the man, huge Kyle Larson fan. And of course, the longest tenured listener of this show since like day one, I'm pretty sure. Charles K. Miller. Appreciate you, Charles, and thank you, everybody on this list. Seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, it means a lot.
Definitely. Checkered flag is flying on this show. This has been the Final Lap Weekly. Catch us next week right here when we will recap the Clash and preview, well, at least for a couple of weeks, the Daytona 500. They got that little football game in between. And Toby, you and I will chat next week. Patreon paying people, patreon.com/the final lap. And 2024 is on. 20th year for the Final Lap. Woo! We out.
It's gonna be a good one.